This story is based on true life event, the type that will make you sad and also be happy, so pay attention as I narrate my story. It started from the moment I stepped into New Dawn Assembly. I felt the eyes on me. The women turned their heads slowly, their lips tightening into that familiar mixture of curiosity and disgust. I wasn't new to that kind of attention. It followed me everywhere, from the market stalls to the bus stop, but it cut deeper inside the church, the one place I thought I'd be safe. I had joined the church out of a sincere desire to grow in faith. I wanted to serve, to sing in the choir, to find peace. But peace was the one thing I couldn't find. Every time I walked down the aisle, the whispers would begin. "Look at her body," one woman would mutter. "This is the kind of woman that destroys marriages," another would add. I tried to ignore them, tried to bury myself in worship, but their words crawled under my skin. One Sunday, after service, Sister Ruth, the pastor's wife, called me aside. Her smile was tight, her tone wrapped in fake gentleness. "Elizabeth," she said, adjusting her head tie, "you have to be careful how you present yourself in the house of God. Your shape is causing distraction for the men. Maybe wear looser clothes next time." I froze, my cheeks burning. "Ma, I'm just wearing what fits me. I can't help the way God made me." Her smile vanished. "Don't be rude, young woman. Pride goes before a fall." Then she turned and walked away, leaving me trembling with humiliation. That night, I cried myself to sleep. I had done nothing wrong. I wasn't trying to seduce anyone. My only sin was being born with a body that drew attention I never asked for. I wanted to disappear, to be invisible, just so people would stop judging me for something beyond my control. But deep down, beneath the shame and tears, something began to shift. I didn't know it yet, but that painful moment would become the beginning of my transformation. God was not silent. He was writing a story that even I couldn't yet imagine. I remember that Sunday as if it happened yesterday, the day my world shattered in front of the entire congregation. The sun was blazing hot, and the church hall smelled of perfume, sweat, and freshly polished wooden pews. I wore a simple fitted gown, nothing flashy, just something that made me feel decent and confident. But apparently, confidence was a crime for someone like me. During the praise session, I could feel the usual stares drilling into my back. I ignored them, focusing on the songs. "You are great, yes, you are Holy One," I sang with all my heart. Then, suddenly, the microphone went silent. Everyone turned toward the altar. It was Sister Ruth, the pastor's wife, holding the mic with a face twisted in righteous anger. "Brethren," she began, her voice sharp and judgmental, "some of us come to the house of God to worship, but others come to show off their bodies. Some women don't realize they are a stumbling block to men." My heart dropped. The room went still. She looked directly at me. "Elizabeth, please stand up." The whispering started, a sea of murmurs that grew louder with every second. My knees felt weak, but I stood. She pointed at me. "This young lady has been dressing in ways that draw attention to herself. The house of God is not a fashion parade. We will not tolerate temptation here." The words sliced through me like a knife. I wanted to sink into the ground. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. The men avoided my eyes. The women glared with silent satisfaction. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall, not in front of them. When service ended, I walked out before anyone could speak to me. The dusty road outside the church felt like a relief, the open sky, my only witness. My chest ached, but something inside me hardened. I whispered through clenched teeth, "One day, they will remember this moment and regret every word." I didn't know how or when, but I made a quiet vow that day. I would never let their shame define me again. I would turn their mockery into something powerful, something they couldn't ignore. For days after that Sunday, I couldn't leave my room. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces, the judgmental stares, the whispers, the laughter. My phone buzzed endlessly with messages from church members, some pretending to check on me, others sending scripture verses that sounded more like insults than comfort. I stopped responding. I didn't want to hear another word about holiness or modesty. I just wanted to breathe. Mama knocked on my door one afternoon, her voice soft but weary. "Lizzy, Biko, you haven't eaten since morning. You'll make yourself sick." I didn't answer. She sighed and pushed the door open. Her eyes were full of worry. "My daughter, I know you're hurting, but don't let them break you. People will always talk." I looked at her, tears finally spilling. "Mama, they humiliated me in front of everyone. They made me feel dirty, like I was cursed for having this body. What did I ever do wrong?" She came closer, cupping my face gently. "You did nothing wrong. God doesn't make mistakes. Maybe He's using this pain to prepare you for something greater." Her words were comforting, but I couldn't see any greatness in my pain. I avoided church after that. I stopped singing, stopped going out. Even walking through Ogbit Market became torture, the men's catcalls, the women's jealous glares. I felt like a walking sin in human form. One evening, while scrolling through my phone, I stumbled on a quote that pierced my heart. "They will mock you, then later admire you, if you refuse to give up." Something inside me stirred. I thought of all the women who were hiding their bodies, shrinking their confidence just to fit into a world that shamed them for being different. Maybe, just maybe, my story wasn't meant to end in shame. That night, I picked up my journal and began to write ideas, sketches of clothes that flattered curvy women without making them feel indecent. I didn't know much about fashion, but I knew pain, and sometimes pain is the best designer. I decided right there that I would build something beautiful out of what broke me. The fire that burned me had started to refine me, and though I didn't know it yet, that was the beginning of Cava by Lizzy. The next morning, I woke up with a strange kind of energy, the kind that comes after you've cried for too long and run out of tears. I borrowed Mama's old sewing machine from the corner of her room, the one she used to make her market blouses back in the day. The machine squeaked and rattled, but it still worked. I spread a faded Ankara cloth on the table and began to draw the first design that had lived rent-free in my head all night. A fitted gown that celebrated curves but still looked graceful. Mama entered quietly and watched me for a moment. "You've started sewing again?" she asked. I smiled faintly. "I'm starting something new, Mama. I want to design clothes for women like me, clothes that make us feel confident, not ashamed." She tilted her head, studying me. "That's a beautiful dream, my daughter. But where will you get money for materials?" I sighed. "I'll start small. I still have my savings from when I worked at that salon. It won't be much, but it's enough to make 2 or 3 dresses." Those first few weeks were rough. I ruined more fabric than I finished. My fingers bled from broken needles, and the noise from the machine became the soundtrack of my nights. Yet every mistake taught me something new. I practiced day and night, watching YouTube tutorials on Mama's old phone. Slowly, the stitches became neater, the designs sharper. One afternoon, my neighbor Chioma stopped by. She stared at a dress I'd just finished, a bright green gown with ruffled sleeves and a perfectly curved waistline. "Lizzy, this dress is fire," she exclaimed. "Can I wear it to my cousin's wedding this Saturday?" "Of course," I said, smiling. "Just promise me you'll tell everyone who made it." She grinned. "Na so business day start oh." That wedding changed everything. By the following week, 3 women came knocking on my door, asking for dresses like Chioma's. I didn't even have a brand name yet, but I knew I was onto something special. At night, I lay on my bed, looking at the ceiling fan turning lazily above me. My heart felt alive again. Maybe this was God's plan all along, to turn my humiliation into purpose. The same body they shamed me for had now become my inspiration. Business grew faster than I could have imagined. Within 3 months, my tiny bedroom had turned into a mini fashion studio. Fabric rolls leaned against the wall, threads spilled over the floor, and the air smelled of hot pressing irons and new dreams. Women from across Enugu came knocking, curvy, slim, tall, short, each one looking for a dress that made her feel beautiful again. One Saturday morning, as I pinned fabric on a client's waist, Chioma burst in, waving her phone excitedly. "Lizzy, you're trending on Facebook." I froze. Trending? How? She turned the screen to me, a photo of one of my clients wearing my design at a corporate event. The caption read, "Finally, fashion that celebrates the real African woman." The comments section overflowed with praise. My hands trembled as I scrolled. For the first time in a long while, people were celebrating the very thing I had once been mocked for. But success has a way of drawing both light and shadow. A week later, I started hearing whispers again, familiar, ugly whispers. "Have you heard? That Elizabeth girl who left New Dawn Assembly now sews indecent clothes," someone said at the market. "She's using her shape to attract attention," another added. At first, I ignored it, but the words began to sting when Mama came home from church looking uneasy. "Lizzy," she began carefully, "Pastor and his wife were discussing you today. They said your fashion business is promoting vanity. Sister Ruth even told the women's group that you're leading young girls astray." I laughed bitterly. The same woman who humiliated me in front of everyone? Now she wants to destroy me again. Mama touched my shoulder. "Don't fight them. Just focus on your work. Let God vindicate you." I nodded, but anger churned inside me. How could they twist my hard work into sin? Everything I created came from a place of pain and healing. I wasn't promoting vanity, I was restoring confidence. That night, as I sat sketching my next design, I made another quiet vow. I would keep growing until even those who judged me would have no choice but to respect me. They wanted me to fail, but failure was no longer in my vocabulary. What I didn't know was that fate was already planning my return to that same church. Not in shame this time, but in victory. The morning it happened, I was bent over my sewing machine, humming softly as I stitched the neckline of a deep blue gown. The radio played in the background, the usual mix of news, gossip, and gospel songs. Then out of nowhere I heard my name. And our guest today is Elizabeth Naji, the young designer behind Cava by Lizzy, a fashion brand that's changing how African women see their bodies. I froze. My heart skipped. It was a local Enugu radio program, Voices of the City. I listened wide-eyed, as the host described me as a bold inspiration to curvy women everywhere. I didn't even know they knew my name. Chioma must have been behind it. She was always bragging about me to everyone. When the program ended, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Clients, friends, even strangers were congratulating me. That same week, I was invited to showcase my designs at a women's empowerment seminar. It felt surreal. The same body that once brought me shame was now opening doors I never imagined. But life has a strange sense of humor. 2 days before the seminar, I received a letter, hand-delivered by a familiar face from church. It was printed on New Dawn Assembly letterhead. "Dear Sister Elizabeth, the Women's Ministry of New Dawn Assembly is hosting a special Sunday on self-worth and modesty in the modern woman. We would be honored if you would come and share your journey with us." I read it twice, certain it was some kind of joke. The same church that had humiliated me before the entire congregation now wanted me to come speak? My chest tightened. Anger, confusion, and disbelief tangled together. "Mama, did you see this?" I asked, handing her the letter. She adjusted her glasses, read it carefully, then looked up at me. "You see? God has started your vindication. You must go." I frowned. "Go? After what they did to me?" "Yes," she said gently. "Not for them, but for every woman who was made to feel small like you were. Your story is not just yours anymore." That night, I sat staring at my reflection in the mirror. I saw a woman who had crawled through humiliation, bled through hard work, and risen from ashes. Maybe Mama was right. Maybe this was my moment to turn pain into power. I whispered to myself, if they want me to speak, I'll speak, and they'll finally see who Elizabeth has become. The morning I walked back into New Dawn Assembly, my heart pounded like a drum. It had been over a year since that Sunday of humiliation, yet the memory still lived in me like a scar that refused to fade. I wore one of my own designs, a flowing white gown with gold embroidery around the waist. It was elegant, modest, yet undeniably me. I wanted them to see strength, not shame. As I stepped into the church compound, conversations faltered. The ushers froze, and the murmurs began almost instantly. "Is that Elizabeth?" one whispered. "She came back," another murmured, half in surprise, half in awe. Mama walked beside me, her wrapper swishing softly. "Keep your head high, my daughter," she said under her breath. "Today is your testimony." Inside, the sanctuary looked the same, the shiny tiled floor, the banners reading Women of Virtue Conference, and the same pulpit where my dignity had once been stripped away. Sister Ruth stood near the altar, her bright purple head tie towering like a crown. When she saw me, she blinked, her lips tightening, but she forced a smile. "Ah, Sister Elizabeth," she said, extending her hand. "Welcome. We are so glad you could make it." I took her hand, feeling the tension beneath her fake warmth. "Thank you, Ma. I'm honored to be here." As the program began, I sat quietly, listening to the choir sing, the same songs I used to sing before everything fell apart. My heart ached, but I stayed composed. When they finally called my name, the entire church turned toward me. I climbed the podium slowly, the microphone trembling slightly in my hand. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then I took a deep breath and began. "A year ago, I stood in this same church feeling broken and humiliated. I was told that my body was a distraction, that the way God made me was wrong. But today, I stand here as a woman who learned that purpose can rise from pain." The room was silent. Every eye was on me, even Sister Ruth's. "I didn't build Cava by Lizzy just to make clothes," I continued, my voice steady now. "I built it to remind women that shame has no power unless we give it. What they called a curse became my calling." When I finished, the congregation rose in applause. Some women even wiped tears from their eyes. For the first time, I saw pride instead of judgment in their faces. And as I stepped down from that pulpit, Sister Ruth avoided my gaze. I smiled to myself. God had done what only He could do, turned humiliation into honor. The service ended with smiles, songs, and the smell of jollof rice drifting from the church kitchen. Women gathered around me, touching my arm, asking about my designs, taking pictures as if I was some celebrity. I smiled politely, answered their questions, but my heart was heavy. I knew there was one more thing left undone. I spotted Sister Ruth standing by the side of the altar, her face expressionless. She was talking to two women, but her eyes kept flicking toward me. When our gazes finally met, she quickly looked away. That was my cue. I walked over slowly, my heels clicking softly on the tiled floor. "Good afternoon, Ma," I greeted, forcing a calm smile. She turned, pretending to be cheerful. "Ah, Sister Elizabeth, today's message was so powerful. God really used you." "Thank you, Ma," I said, my tone even. "But I think we need to talk." Her smile faltered. "Talk? About what?" "About that Sunday," I said quietly. "The day you called me out before everyone. The day you made me feel like a curse instead of a creation." The women beside her exchanged glances and excused themselves, sensing the tension. Sister Ruth shifted uncomfortably. "My dear, don't take it that way. I was only doing what was right. You know how men can be distracted. With all due respect, Ma," I interrupted gently but firmly, "men's distractions are not my responsibility. I came to church to worship, not to seduce anyone. You broke me that day." Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came out. The silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken truth. Finally, she sighed and looked down. Elizabeth. I didn't realize the damage I caused. I was protecting the church, but maybe I went too far. I'm sorry. For a moment I just stood there, stunned. I never thought I'd hear those words from her. My throat tightened, but I managed to smile faintly. Thank you, Ma. I forgave you long ago. I just needed to hear it. She nodded slowly, her eyes moist. God truly lifted you, my daughter. You've become what I never imagined you'd be. I chuckled softly. God has a way of surprising people. As I walked away, relief flooded through me, not because she apologized, but because I finally closed that painful chapter. The woman who once stood trembling under her judgment had walked away in peace. Outside, the sun was bright and golden, bathing the church in warm light. I looked up and whispered, "Thank you, Lord. You've turned my story into testimony." But little did I know, my story wasn't over yet. Bigger doors were about to open. After that Sunday, life moved like a whirlwind. My story spread beyond Enugu, carried by videos and photos people had posted online after my speech. Within days, my social media pages exploded with followers, women sharing how my words touched them, how they finally felt proud of their own bodies. I wasn't just Elizabeth the seamstress anymore. I had become Elizabeth Naji, the face of body confidence in Nigeria. One morning, I got a call that changed everything. "Hello, is this Miss Elizabeth Naji?" a calm female voice asked. "Yes, speaking. This is Ada from Morning Sunrise TV on channels. We'd love to feature you on our show next week. Your story is trending nationwide." I almost dropped my phone. Mama screamed from the sitting room when she heard. "You, my daughter on television? God, you've done it," she shouted, dancing around. That TV appearance felt like walking into another world. Bright lights, makeup artists, cameras everywhere. When the host asked me to share my journey, I spoke from my heart. I talked about how shame nearly destroyed me, how pain became my teacher, and how every woman deserved to see beauty in her reflection. By the time I finished, the entire studio was silent. Then came the applause, loud, genuine, unstoppable. Orders flooded in afterward. My small shop couldn't handle the demand. I hired 2 apprentices, then 4 more. Cava by Lizzy wasn't just a brand anymore. It was a movement. But fame, I learned, was a double-edged sword. Alongside the love came envy. Some church members accused me of using fame to promote vanity. A few old friends grew distant, whispering that success had changed me. One night, as I sat sketching designs under the flickering bulb in my workshop, I felt a strange emptiness. I had everything I once prayed for: success, recognition, respect, but something still felt missing. I realized I hadn't truly healed, I had only moved forward. The past still echoed inside me, reminding me where I came from. That's when an idea struck, one that would change everything again. I would start a foundation for young girls, a safe space where they could learn skills, build confidence, and find beauty in who they were. It was time to give back. Time to make sure no girl ever felt as broken as I once did. The day of the foundation's opening felt like a dream. Banners fluttered in the breeze, the words Cava Confidence Initiative printed boldly across them. The small hall in Independence layout was packed. Journalists, young girls, mothers, even a few familiar faces from New Dawn Assembly. The smell of fresh paint mixed with the scent of hope. I stood at the podium, looking at the faces before me, girls of every shape and size, some shy, some radiant. A few clutched their wrappers tightly, their eyes wide with uncertainty. I saw myself in them, the girl who once hid behind shame, who thought her body was a curse. My throat tightened, but I smiled. 3 years ago, I began softly, I was humiliated in public because of my body. I was told I was a distraction, that I didn't belong in the house of God. But today, standing before you all, I realize God never left me. He was using my pain to shape my purpose. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. I started this foundation so that no girl will ever believe she is less because of how she looks. You are not a mistake. You are God's art, unique, powerful, and enough. Applause filled the hall, but what caught me off guard was the sight of Sister Ruth stepping forward. She wore a simple blue gown, her eyes softer than I'd ever seen them. When she reached me, she took my hand before the crowd. "Elizabeth," she said, her voice trembling, "I came here today to support you. You have taught me more about grace than any sermon ever did. I am proud of you." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Tears welled in my eyes as I hugged her. The crowd clapped louder, their cheers echoing through the hall like music. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the Enugu Hills, I stood outside the building, watching the girls laugh and chatter. Mama came to stand beside me, her wrapper tied loosely, her smile warm. "You see, my daughter," she said softly, "I told you God was preparing something bigger." I nodded, tears spilling freely. "Yes, Mama. He really does write straight with crooked lines." As the laughter of the girls filled the air, I realized my journey had come full circle, from humiliation to healing, from judgment to joy. What once broke me had become my testimony, and for the first time, I felt completely free, body, soul, and spirit. Please, kindly hit the subscribe button, like this video and share. This means a lot to us. Thank you for watching.